All right,
Yeah.
hey. Afternoon, folks, or morning, I guess, for certain parts of the world. It's Discussing Tabletop. It's January 8th, 2022. I at least remember the year. That's good on my end.
You're getting there.
I will probably remember that eventually well. I'm probably going to at least a couple of times say it was 2021 again before I really, before, a couple months go by.
Yeah, I mean, everyone does that.
Expect maybe some June before I'm, fully in there. Because I'm bad. Short docket of normal topics today that we're going to hit into. And then we do have an interesting, deeper discussion topic and some other stuff.
Well, and I have a lot of opinions on.
Yes, I do too. Because it's going to be related to combat and combat sizes.
Everyone's favorite.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk charity bundles, because that's...
Ooh, charity.
Charity. Now, the thing is, Humble, I think, is a little better, because Humble's had the 2 out. I really love that.
Humble's had quite a few very good charity bundles.
Yes. I think right now the one just ended.
I think so.
Which was the Pathfinder 2e one.
Yeah, I think that one ended.
We did talk about
how you spell humble.
It says the actual thing to be humble, humid, blah blah blah. I could speak English. Anyway, I think we talked about the Star Trek Adventure ones, and it's still up for 5 more days. But it was brought to my attention there was also one under a group called Bag of Holding. Now, the only thing about them is we only know that they put about 10% to charity, which isn't a lot. It's some. But I don't know how much Humble does.
I used to know how much Humble did, but that's before they were bought by, I forget what company bought them a long time ago.
Yeah.
Who owns Humble? I'm looking that up.
Good question. Because it starts without number. The Bag of Holding has more than... It's got more than that. It's also got the RPG Expanse. Apparently the Bag of Holding, or Bundle of Holding, is
That's about it. IGN bought it.
IGN. That's kind of unusual. I will link the Expanse in Modern Day one, because I think that's the one that was mentioned particularly to me. Because apparently, or Modern Age, apparently they have a bunch of these RPG bundles or book related bundles, and that's what they're on. But again, they're 10% in comparison, so I don't know if that's better or worse. Stars Without Numbers.
Humble gives about 20% from what I'm seeing.
Okay, so it's still that's a much better percentage, honestly. But still, yes, there's probably paying to things on the Humble side.
Yeah, because they do have it's a company they have to run, and they have to pay for the keys because they have to get the cost back.
Yeah, and even if they're getting them at cost, so to say, from the company, they probably do have to give the company some percentage of the money. So it's sort of like the company is getting their tax write-off, kind of. So they're selling at cost almost.
It's still you get a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of stuff for that. So that's an interesting one. The bundles of honing humble bundle of holding group. God, I don't recognize except for 2 of these. I don't recognize most of these things that are showing out there. Modern Age, I've heard of because it's the age system. And I think the Expanse uses the age system, and then Stars Without Numbers I know about.
Yeah, I know that. I've heard of Vagabonds before, but I've never seen much on it. I've just heard the name before.
Okay.
Champions I've never heard of.
It might be a third-party thing because it's Champions 5e, so it screams.
Hero I've never heard of either.
But Yeah, and Hero, it's another 5e, probably third party system for 5e or something. I've never heard of either of those.
The only one I can really speak on is Stars Without Number. That's
yeah.
the only one of these I've played. And I've played it twice, technically.
Chip is a role-playing game published by Hero Games. I'm just looking into this briefly. It's an old one. The first edition was 1981. Jesus. And 6th edition came out in 2010. That's interesting that it's gotten 6 editions and I haven't heard about it. And it's from 81.
Yeah. Maybe it's a very niche system.
It's a hero system, but it might be like a very
hero
niche.
it's a generic roleplay system.
Yeah.
It's for superheroes, I think.
Okay, so you're using the hero system, which is I guess what it is one of these bundles is for the generic system, the hero system, and then the other one is specifically for the superhero one, Champion, which is like, I guess
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so there is some stuff here that people could have heard about. Again, the age system's pretty big, because I think wasn't it developed originally for the Dragon Age RPG?
I think so.
And they expanded it out because that's why it's the age system. I think that's what it was.
I think it was the adventure game engine. I think, right?
Yeah, the adventure
That's what it
game
stands
engine.
for. It was for Dragon Age.
Yeah, I thought so, because I think that was like the joke is they called it the adventure, but exactly what you said, because my brain just the adventure game engine, and it's like it's the age part of Dragon Age, and then they just expanded it into using it a lot with other books, which I heard okay things about the Dragon Age RPG. Honestly,
I've also heard pretty alright things. I've never played it personally.
No, I haven't played any of the age system. So it would a charity bundle is an excuse to get some stuff if you really want to try it too.
Yeah.
I mean, tends to be cheaper.
Bundles are fairly cheaper.
It's like $20 for the thing. It's not bad.
$20 for modern age.
Mm-hmm. And $8 for some Spars Without Numbers stuff if you really want to get that.
Yeah, if you really want an okay sandbox tabletop system.
I mean, honestly, like, if you play it as is, you'll be murdered a lot at the beginning of the game, but other than that...
it's almost like it's based on something really old.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's based on Traveler.
I'm not sure how in the one game I enjoyed of Stars that I survived, but I think it was because the system was not normal Stars.
I've played the revised edition, which is a little less painful.
That might have been what we were doing too.
I was in the game for like half a year of it. It was fine mostly. It struggles from the problem of it is a game that has a lot of travel time. And because the travel time is not passive, you have to make rolls, you can't skip it. And we, in the game I was in, we had to, like, go halfway across the star system. It wasn't a very big star system. We fucked up every jump roll. And got super lost. And it was, like, 2 sessions of trying to get unlost. It was not particularly fun.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bad.
And if you roll like a 1 on your check, your ship systems just blow up and you're stranded and you have to fix them. Which is also a roll.
We rolls.
But it's also like, it's a sandbox game. It's not particularly good at combat. It's very deadly. It's very explory if you're into that kind of thing. Like I said, it was fine. I think it's a just okay system.
I think that's the issue with stars. Is it's almost, it locks things. In this case, success behind a check.
Yeah, everything is locked behind a check.
And I think that's something that we've discussed more recently. Is don't lock things behind checks because it's bad.
No,
And
because dice can be really bad a lot of the time.
Well, it's like, I think it was either Buccaneers or Wrath that I was saying the one time. I'm like, you guys make this check, and I'm like, I'm trying to help you out. I'm like, you don't really need this check. It's not going to help you in the long run. It might give you
Buccaneers.
It's Buccaneers, and I'm like, you don't really need this check, but it might help you. You know, sort of like
it's additional information that you don't need, but it would help you do it faster.
Yeah, it'd be much more efficient, and we wouldn't have to have some problems. And I'm like, I would prefer you have this, but it's sort of like something that, because of the nature of it, I just can't give it to you, and you don't need it anyway, honestly.
I was jokingly going to say, like, it wouldn't have been Wrath because we almost never roll in Wrath. We don't roll a lot of dice in Wrath.
They don't. They talk about things and then do some stupid shit.
That is the entirety of Wrath. They just do stupid things. And I have to watch them be idiots.
Mm-hmm. And you met their old babysitter who's like, I feel sorry for you.
This poor 62-year-old man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, I mean, charity's good, and if you're interested in any of these bundles from the Star Trek Humble one, which I can definitely recommend the Star Trek game, to things like...
Star Trek game was really fun when I played it.
Oh, yeah, no. Again, it's one that's... It's harder to run, but I would love to do it. Maybe, like... At one point in time, I'll, like, grab a bunch of their pre-made adventures and just, like, adapt them a little bit.
Yeah, I know... Because I actually like the 2D20 system a lot.
Yeah.
I want to do some of the other ones that they've released.
But there was a lot of good ones from Diffios.
Because I still want to run the Fallout one.
Fallout would be fun. And, was it, I always thought an interesting one to play or run would be Space 1889. Because, like, all that crazy shit from Jules Verne was supposed to be true. So you have, like, steampunk space travel.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, like, you know, you visit the other planets, and so, like, you know, Mars is kind of deserty, but there is Martians there, and then, like, you know, Venus is like a giant swamp with dinosaurs or something like that, you know, crazy shit like that, you know, like, it's totally unrealistic, but it feels like something like someone in a Victorian age would have come up with in a story, you know.
I like how looking up the lore. Fucking Belgium has colonized Mars. Italy colonized Venus.
Yep. Space 1889. It's crazy, but it seemed like such like a fun, weird system to play, you know.
Well, apparently, there's no colonies on the moon, which would be the easier thing to colonize.
The moon's just a rock. There's nothing there. I mean, come on.
It's just a rock made of cheese.
Yeah. Why colonize that? That's a waste of time. But yeah, great things to check them out. Please do. Let's talk about Munchkin.
Oh no. What did they do now?
They did this thing that... I'm going to say this. I both love and hate this because it is original.
Oh, they've done something original for once?
It is stupid, but original. Munchkin Babies. They went the Muppet Babies route.
Of course they did.
Or Tiny Toons or something like that, you know. The Tiny Toons is its own thing. If you just look back, like the baby/young character craze of the 90s, there was a lot of it.
That was a thing for some reason.
Oh yeah. They made just younger versions of a lot of characters for reasons.
It's a little weird. Honestly.
Hanna-Barbera mostly did it.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera, for all the young people watching this, definitely. Hanna-Barbera reused a lot of stupid things and just, like, pumped out cartoons.
Mm-hmm. They were worse in the 70s because it was like they had their hit with Scooby-Doo and they had like their own like 27 Scooby-Doo clones of their own.
God, there were so many Scooby-Doo clones.
You don't realize that things like, was it Jabberjaw, Josie and the Pussycats, there was a couple others. At least those two, which people might recognize the name of, those were Scooby-Doo clones.
Yep.
But yeah, Munchkin babies. Your baby adventurers, you're just as good at backstabbing and loot grabbing. Oh god. It's silly, but I like it. It's instead of a halfling, it's a quarterling.
I do like that. That is funny.
Yeah.
Wizkids, that's copywritten.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use that.
Ankle biter, crumb snatcher, holy terror.
At least it's like original content.
Yeah.
And not Munchkin Russia.
Yeah. Like, that's insulting Russia. Or like, Munchkin, I don't know what brand they're grabbing now. You know, that's an actual brand. This is at least something on its own. And, I mean, honestly, as silly as it is, I'm like, I'm glad they did it. You know, it's the hateful thing.
It's something original for once.
It's so silly, but it's original. Thank you, Steve Jackson Games, for at least originality. I mean, even though you're like, it's still weird.
There's just too much Munchkin.
That is the problem. Is they should have spread it out a lot more.
Yeah.
Antioxidant-rich juice. Now with ingredients on the box. Wow. That's terrible. They also released another one that is like... It's a special expansion for Annie Munchkin bosses. And I think the idea is they're supposed to be like epic boss monsters, but they also are mimicking like, you know, bosses in real life, I think, you know, and doing like, you know, jokes like that.
Yeah, I get the bad joke.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you were genetically enhanced clone, plus 12 to your level. This is like, it's interesting idea too. I like how they do some of these. Like, these are expansions I like. These are both things I like. This is like a small expansion you could add to any other Munchkin set. Like, if they would just stick to these and put out a few a year, I'm not going to be too bad. But like, they put out 1 billion, and I'm just too much. I mean, they've been around forever. I actually have Munchkin card game. When was the original release?
Oh, it's been a long time. I'm pretty sure.
It's officially 20 years old.
Yeah, that sounds right.
2001. Jesus.
That sounds about right.
I remember getting it back in the day. I remember I couldn't afford it, so a friend of mine and I split the cost of it. I'm fairly certain I paid him back. I don't actually remember. So that I would owe the entire thing. But I don't remember. But I remember doing that. We split the cost. Oh, God. 20 years and 1 billion expansions later, it's just... I don't know at this point in time.
I played Munchkin a few times. I don't find it fun anymore, personally.
I don't know. I think if you just played with one, maybe you could still find it, but you're supposed to kind of mash everything up and make it crazy.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And it's too much. And I don't... It's hard to play with just that one. So it's that weird thing of, like, I don't know about Munchkin anymore.
Yeah. I don't know.
But they'll continue, and Steve Jackson Games will hopefully continue. And I mean, like, honestly, if they're going to continue, I hope they do more shit like this.
Yeah, I'd rather them do original ideas than just here's generic. Here's an IP for some reason, or here's a country we're just gonna make fun of.
Yeah, we're gonna make fun of this country, or here's the. I was looking on the Wikipedia to get that age, and I'm like, I forgot about there's Rick and Morty, DuckTales. There was 2 Warcrafts, 40K, and Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, of course there were.
Mm-hmm. Too much. Let's talk about Wizkids.
Yeah.
Let me know if you had another comment there.
I don't have any more comments.
Okay.
Alright, what's Wizkids doing now?
They're having a game called Free Radicals. Which that's why I was able to say, the joke Free Radicals. Anyway. It's a coming soon game. The name sold me a lot. Players take control of one of 10 fully asymmetrical factions as you make up interconnected community in Sphere City. A thriving community built underneath the Sphere. I don't know what the Sphere is. I guess it's something. Is this from something? Or is this its own thing?
I have no idea.
Yeah. It's got an interesting art style to it. Definitely.
Very punk.
Yeah, very, very like a future punk kind of game looking. Each faction provides different themes and challenges. There's farmers, couriers, artisans. That's kind of unique that you're kind of that kind of groups. There's 60 resources, which hydrogen, carbon, and titanium. That's an odd combination of things. Hydrogen, carbon, and titanium.
There's a little bit of a specific mix.
Yeah, 2 of those are water.
2 of those, yeah.
Oh, no, that's oxygen. I'm sorry.
One of those is water.
One of those is part of water.
One of those is very poisonous.
Yeah, one of those is poisonous. I mean, technically carbon makes up most of it since we're carbon-based life forms.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So victory points. I like games with victory points. I like competitive games.
I mean, it looks like a pretty good, game on the surface. I feel like, again, you'd want to wait till you... the rulebook's downloaded? Let me check this here. Because it releases in February, so it's coming up. Well, yeah, the rulebook is totally downloadable, so you can check it out yourself and read into it more. Nice. I'm not going to, but I will say it looks neat. The card systems looks interesting. And if you want to form a full opinion, I would definitely recommend reading through this rulebook, which is trying not to load up on me, so I'm leaving it now.
PDFs are very slow to load.
So, and apparently there's a faction player aid that you can also download. Oh god, it's 20 pages too. Oh god. Oh yeah, it's backstories on factions and how to play them and stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
it looks like it's a resource gathering kind of game from what I'm looking at these pictures, and I actually really like those kind of games.
I do too. I'm a big fan of them. If someone said to me, "Hey, do you want to play some honestly, if someone says to me, "You want to play some Settlers?" I'm gonna I would be fine for it. I'd probably prefer something like Knights and Cities, which is a little more complex, but I'm still down for it. I don't do enough of it to get tired of it, honestly.
I played so much Settlers that I don't. It's one of those things I haven't played in a long time, but I don't know if I'd like it because I played so much of it in college.
That is the thing that I can understand is when you play a lot of something, it gets harder to do more of it.
Yeah, a game that's technically a resource collecting game that I would love to play people Surviving Mars. That's a really good board game, in my opinion. It's also got a computer version. It's also really good. We're Terraforming Mars, not Surviving Mars.
Oh, yeah.
Terraforming Mars is really good, in my opinion.
There was another interesting kind of resource style. There's a couple of games that I would really like to play more, but the thing is again I'd have to find probably great on Tabletop Simulator and a time.
I still want to drag people and play the Resident Evil board games. I love those board games.
I probably wouldn't be against doing it at least once. If I liked it, maybe more. It's just timing, getting people, not always easy.
Board games are so hard to get people for.
Yeah,
Because
unfortunately.
you gotta set you gotta set aside a lot of time for a board game. Because it'll take at least like 30 minutes to an hour to get the rules down. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Definitely. So that is Free Radicals. I definitely recommend checking it
Looks
out.
cool.
And then so speaking of bundles, this Atlas has a bundle of RPGs for $30, which is, I guess, their RPGs. Ars Magica 5th edition, Feng
I've
Shui
heard of Ars
2,
Magica.
Over the Edge 3rd edition, and Unknown Armies Book 1 Play, which I assume is the book you need to play.
Is there Ars Magica video games? There might be. This game sounds very familiar.
Don't know.
I've definitely heard of Ars Magica before.
Okay. Unfortunately, like, I have heard mentioned under Atlas some of these, before, but not to like a huge degree that I'm like, I know of that. Yeah. Let me see here. They don't have. I guess you can like kind of search for this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know why I've heard of this. You used to be able to when this game was like a couple editions ago, because I don't think they really make new editions of this game anymore. You could play it alongside World of Darkness stuff.
Okay.
It would tie into World of Darkness games.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like that mythic real world where there's all this supernatural stuff, but it's still the real world.
Oh, I see why you're saying that. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Can I have to hear that drumming?
Yeah, I can hear it.
That's my niece, I think, is drumming. I think she's gotten to her drum kit again. But she does have a drum kit.
That's a mistake. Giving a child a drum kit.
Oh, I didn't. Though apparently that was a Christmas gift to her as new drumsticks, so she could lose another 5 pairs of them.
Oh yeah, of course.
I've heard of Feng Shui too. I don't know a lot about it.
I've heard of Feng Shui. And I've not heard of these other two.
Yeah, I've heard of Over the Edge. I have not heard of Unknown Armies. I don't know a lot about Over the Edge over the top of my head. Over the Edge, Ars Magica. Let me just get into their Unknown Armies, Feng Shui, product lines. Let's just see what you say about this. Over the Edge, which one was this? Science Conspiracy Hyper Reality. Oh my god, now I remember Over the Edge. Now I remember why I remember it. Oh my god. Back on my YouTube channel, and for those of you on YouTube right now watching this, shout out. I was doing a series where I was reviewing failed CCGs that came out around, because there was the boom of CCGs around Magic. And one of them was On the Edge, which was, it's the same world. It's this island of Amarja. And I think the thing is, an RPG came out back and then. The Over the Edge RPG came back in that time period. I don't know which came first, but this is the 3rd edition of it that was like redone a couple of years ago. And so it's set in this like fictional sci-fi, but there is a CCG based around this world.
Of course there was.
I can't remember a lot about the game other than it was hard to play. I dived into the rules. Honestly, I would have to rewatch my stuff for it, but I dove into some of those games. They were fun to learn about, and some of them were just weird from that time period. But that's why I remembered that Over the Edge. Ars Magica, as you said, is that more modern one, I guess. And then
Ars Magica is kind of like medieval Magic Europe.
Yeah. And Unknown Armies is an occult horror RPG about broken people trying to fix an equally broken world. Okay.
And Feng Shui, I'm pretty sure, is like a Hong Kong movie in a tabletop form.
Action movie RPG in a Hong Kong inspired cinematic style. Okay. I mean, all of them are neat, honestly, now that I'm like remembering and diving into these RPGs. But so it's like if you want $30 to get a group of these digitals, that's what, $7.50 a main book.
Oh my god, Feng Shui 2 is a time travel tabletop RPG.
Oh god, so you like time travel to like, but like
so it has 4 eras: the Tang Dynasty, the Opium War, modern day Hong Kong, and post-apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. Your choice, what you deal with.
I hate it. I also love it.
Mm-hmm. It's probably a bitch to deal with, but it's hilarious, probably.
It's got time travel.
Mm-hmm. So the bundle's good through January 31st. $30
for 4 system is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. For this ebook, so you're only saving apparently $30. Again, they're half price, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah, but it's still like a pretty good deal.
But they're also saying like physical books are 20% off for that time period too.
Yeah.
So if you want to get those, hey, it's a good sale Atlas is doing for January.
Yeah.
And they're honestly, again, like the thing is, like the On the Edge card game, it was an interesting world. I gotta be that weird island that they're on or something. I just can't remember a lot about it. But it was interesting. I'd have to dive deep into it again. I guess let's hit a deeper discussion.
Oh, okay.
Because we didn't have a huge amount of topics today.
No, there wasn't a lot of topics. It's been a slow tabletop news time.
Surprisingly, when we took the 2 weeks off because of the kind of holiday season, I ended up busy on Christmas Eve, even though I wasn't as busy as I thought originally I was going to be.
Yeah.
Family stuff got moved around. There was enough stuff for like a decent show, but this season is still kind of quiet.
Yeah, all the announcements happened kind of already, and yeah, there's nothing really new that's been announced.
No.
From the big boys of the industry.
Well, I mean, like, I know one topic we'll have coming up is that Monsters of the Multiverse book, and it's...
I'll maybe have read it, or at least some things on it.
I'll at least have looked into it, too, and figured out what's going on with it.
I can decide if I love or hate how they're doing stat blocks now.
I think I will... I'm going to officially say, ahead of time, I will probably hate 95% of what they do in that book.
Yeah. I mean, like, my experience with recent 5th edition books is usually disappointment.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is, Wizards just isn't taking, I think...
It's not the direction I want for 5th edition.
No. They're going too generic. I know it's supposed to be like a PR move in a way.
It's supposed to be like everyone. It's not even like everyone. Like, because 5th edition before all this was already easy to learn.
Yeah. And I'm like, so what are you making the inclusivity for? It was already inclusive.
Dulling it down a lot.
Yeah. You're dulling it down rather than making it more inclusive. Who the fuck is complaining about like this stuff? I gotta be honest.
The draw, like, there's some stuff people have complained about, but it's not really the stuff they're changing that people have complained about.
No.
I've never seen anyone complain about how a stat block is laid out.
No. No, I have never seen anybody complain about...
I personally thought the stat blocks were fine. They're really easy to read.
Like, some of the stuff they suggest, like, hey, you can make things like the skill and weapon focuses more optional. And I'm like, that's fine. You could have that, I was raised in this other society, and, talk with your GM about something different. If you're raised... Oh, go ahead.
I mean, that's what I do, basically.
Yeah.
Is, like, if you want to play, a human who was raised mainly an elf, I'll just be like, sure, I'll slap the elf proficiencies for weapons on you. There you go, have fun.
Yeah.
You'll have most of these anyways, depending on your class.
And that's the thing, is, certainly, there are definitely excuses for some of the stuff like that that's adaptable, and that's fine, but they go too far, and it's just...
This is a deeper discussion that could go on for a very long time.
But we're going to be talking about something else, because that's just the deeper discussion.
Positive.
I really want to put it like I'm going to put it in a nice way. Wizards, why? That's the deeper discussion.
You're gonna look at that and be like, "Well, what did they do this time?"
It's I should have an exclamation point. Yeah, an exclamation point, like 2 of them, no, 3 of them. There we go. Wizards, why? There we go.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we're talking about combat, and specifically the types of encounters you can have in combat.
I like combat most of the time.
Combat comes down to, at its easiest, 3 different types of encounters, and I'm going to say that. And these are the 3 different logical. Now, there is a couple of, like, subtypes we can talk about. But
there's also a very special type of encounter that doesn't come up that often, the wave encounter.
Ah, that's true. Which we should include a discussion on those as kind of like side topics. So, there are small encounters. These are simple encounters.
You are on a cart and there's some goblins in front of you, like 4 of them.
Yeah. The chances of you winning are incredibly high. They're still
not in Lost Mines where it can fucking TPK a party.
I mean, the dice rolls can mess with you in these things.
God.
Yeah.
Don't ever play a wizard in Lost Mines. You're gonna die.
There are certainly, like, things that could happen that will have a dramatic effect. But the idea of a small encounter is they're the kind of typical counter.
Yeah, they're like the standard monster that there's like 4 to 5 of them depending on their CR, and they're like, to dull down, it's an encounter you throw in to take away some player resources to make other encounters a little more difficult.
Yep. Then you have, of course, large encounters. Now, large encounters, there is a subset of this, aka the mini-boss.
Yeah.
Where you specifically have, like, you know, the second in command or the third, like, you know, the I'm in the hierarchy, I'm a big boss thing in there. But you could also have, like, a cave system you're exploring, and hey, one of these has this dragon, you know, and you should be set up to fight that dragon, but the dragon might be a lot more difficult than your average encounter in this area. And you're going to get better reward because the dragon has treasure.
Because you just murdered a dragon.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted,
also, you can take its scales and make armor out of it, which technically does things in 5th edition.
True. Now, those first 2, excluding the mini-boss, tend to be more optional. You don't have to fight that dragon. You don't have to fight those goblins. You can retreat, you know.
Most dungeons, at least in a lot of 5th edition modules that I've seen, have ways, at least the recent 5th edition modules, have ways around fighting these little encounters, like alternate paths.
Mm-hmm. I also do like, going back to 4th edition, something I like because you could be creative and use the environment for or against your characters.
Yeah.
They could do environmental stuff to alter these encounters, and that was neat. I think that was the first in that line of getting.
For a small encounter, you can also just use some form of, like, skill to make it easier. Like, say, you are an intimidating big paladin man, and you just make the enemies run away.
Yep. So those 2 tend to be your standard encounters you're going to have. The boss one, the mini boss ones, they tend to be optional.
Those are more in, like, dungeon-y kind of encounter.
And especially, like, if the whatever you're going against, you know, has that.
Yeah, if it's like an organization, they would have those higher ups.
And then, of course, you've got the boss encounter, which is usually the culmination of your adventure kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need to be like a boss of an organization. It can just
be a big monster.
Yeah. It tends to be that crescendo of, like, this is the big fight, this is where I've got to use all my resources.
You have it at the end of a story arc kind of thing.
Yeah. It could be an end of the entire story, technically, if you don't continue. Yeah. Or, like, you know, it leads to a new story arc where it's, like, you know, characters doing something else. It's sort of like if you're exploring a huge dungeon and, like, it's the final creature you fight, you're done exploring the dungeon.
Yeah, you've done the dungeon, and you've got your loot, and maybe you've got some information to go track down the next dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Bosses are hard to do in 5th edition, I will say that.
Yes. I, I understand that definitely. It's the unfortunate thing that part of me wants to do bosses related to Children of Wrath, but part of me also was like, I don't want to stat out a bunch of shit. I might just make things cinematic when we get to that kind of shit.
Yeah. The problem with bosses in 5th edition, and I don't know how much this is an issue in Pathfinder 1e, and I certainly don't know how much it's an issue in Pathfinder 2e, but when you get to higher CR monsters, they just have a shit ton of HP, and it makes things really painful and slow.
Both the Pathfinders are better because things are less tanky. 5th edition has tanky issues.
That's like 5th edition's one of the ways they pump CR is they give more hit die to a monster.
Yeah.
But in Pathfinder, monsters have higher AC, so they're harder to hit. Naturally.
Yeah.
So they're not as tanky.
Yeah. And so it's like and the thing is, like, in 5th edition, I don't have to tie my monster's attack bonus to their hit dice.
No.
Where in Pathfinder, because everything is mechanical and built properly, you do. If you get more hit dice, it has more abilities.
It's hard to change a Pathfinder stat block.
Yeah. You can, like, give it extra strength or something, but, like, if I want more hit points, I have to give it more hit dice, which is going to give it more attack, or more saves, or more skills, or more feats.
Yep.
You know, it's a thing that... It's a preference I have. Like, Pathfinder 1e is really great for customizing villains and stuff, or, like, monsters. It is really great for it. 2e I haven't dabbled into very much. 5e is awful.
Oh, it's so bad in 5e. It would be so much easier in 5e if they had templates.
Yeah.
Granted, but they don't. They have one template, and I think it's Half Dragon.
And granted, what you can do is something that Lightning has suggested. There's online calculators for this shit.
Yeah.
But the problem is I have to go to an online calculator. I can't be sitting here with a piece of paper and drawing it out.
If you look in the DMG, there is a giving it this affects its CR by this number, but it doesn't have a lot of things in there to say, like it doesn't have every monster ability, especially now in the DMG, because the DMG is so old at this point, and there's been new monster abilities released that you can't really use that scale anymore. You have to use an online calculator. Well,
it was like I was like looking because I was trying to for when I was originally doing Madness of the Land and I was trying to adapt it from Pathfinder to 5th edition. Some of the creatures that I customly made, because I could customly make them in Pathfinder very easily. You know, I had an idea of how difficult these things would be in Pathfinder, and trying to I want it to be this CR. What does this CR have in 5th edition? It's not consistent. 5th edition is horribly inconsistent at a CR.
Not at all. CR in 5th edition almost means nothing.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of useless. Because I've looked at, in multiple games I've run, I've looked at monsters of a similar CR and compared their damage die to one of mine. Their damage dies are either so much lower or so much higher, and I don't understand how that is still the same CR.
It's an odd thing that I feel like 5th edition really could have used 60 levels of CR almost, you know?
Yeah, because there's only 30 levels of CR, and the highest CR thing is a Trask.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put that higher. 3 times the level of CR, so
yes. 90
then. I forgot that they do actually have some.
Well, I think a Trask is actually 32 because Tiamat's 30.
Whichever, it doesn't. I understand what you're saying.
Because how is a big dinosaur stronger than a literal god? That's something I'll never understand.
I mean, I don't know. It's the weird thing of the killable yet unkillableness of the Trask, whatever.
Trasks are weird and they're kind of dumb.
Yeah, but the idea that for if we're just going from CR 1 to 10. And of course the lower is behind there should be 3 times the amount of levels in there, honestly.
It really should.
How it is. And that's the thing is, comparably, if I take 2 CR7 monsters in Pathfinder, granted, there might be one that has a bit distinct advantage on the other, but that also might be because of the way they're set up. You know, it might be one is more of a melee combatant, and one is more of like a spellcasting thing. The spellcasting thing, it can have spells which could do great. It might not affect the melee thing. Like if the melee thing is undead, it's going to screw over that one. But theoretically, they should be actually relatively equal, and if I roll dice, it should come down to the dice.
It should. I will also say, if you are going to build an encounter with a spellcaster, please, for the love of God, give it melee minions, because it will just die, because spellcasters don't get a lot of HP in 5th edition.
Yeah, it's just... the idea of, like, a boss is a good one, but it's just so hard. It's just so hard in 5th edition.
It's really hard to do in 5th edition, sadly, because you want to have that big cinematic boss fight moment, but the way CR works and the way monsters work is a little inconsistent, and either you can have a boss that's too hard or a boss that's just a little bit too easy.
Like, and like, I understand, like, you've got certain things, like if we talk Curse of Strahd, you're supposed to get treat cheats. You're never supposed to be able to beat Strahd in an all-out fight. You're supposed to get a bunch of cheats that make it basically make him easy to fight, you know? And that's
Strahd's such a joke.
Yeah.
If you get all those things.
That's the plot of it, though.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, it's because he's like this really big bad villain that's kind of a dickwad, and you're supposed to lay him. Yeah, well, if you play him right, he's supposed to be a dickwad, you know? Depends on how you play.
Strahd is hard to play, to be fair.
Yeah. Again, like, I've probably mentioned it a lot of times before, the Curse of Strahd, or Castle Strahd, Castle Ravenloft board game, having the one card, Strahd appears, fireballs you, and then leaves. Yeah. That's supposed to be his entire thing. He's not trying to kill you, he's trying to hurt you. If he does, he's just an asshole who likes playing around with his food, which is you. You know?
Yeah. 5e has boss monsters in modules, but they are very strong because most modules give you the things to trivialize them.
And that's the way they play it. They don't have you actually, like, all-out fight this thing. They have you, like, here's the MacGuffin that you learned about that allow you to defeat this enemy.
Here's the Tome of Strahd. I don't remember what the Tome of Strahd actually does. Here's a Sunblade. Here's the thing that... There's literally an item in Curse of Strahd that just paralyzes vampires.
Like, there's, like,
it's the Amulet of Ravenkind, I think.
Yeah, like, the amulet, the tome, the sword, and here's a very powerful ally that will, like, you know, absorb attacks for you or something, you know?
Or, you know, you just take a bunch of dark gifts and ruin the campaign.
I mean, honestly.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think they should be removed. Like, the dark gifts shouldn't be there, honestly.
No, they're really bad.
There's a lot of problems with Curse of Strahd, but there's a lot of good things about it too. It's that weird thing of, like, I both love and hate some of the stuff from it, and it's one of the...
For a while, Curse of Strahd was sadly the best 5th edition module.
I don't know what the best one would be now. I haven't seen some of the more modern ones.
The best one, in my opinion, now is Witchblade.
Okay. But none of them do bosses right.
No, it's just because of the way 5th edition is designed. It's very difficult to do boss fights. An encounter I've actually started to like recently is the wave-based encounter, which are very strange because the way you have to do them is each wave has to count as one of the allotted encounters per day. Otherwise, you're going to have too many encounters, and you're just going to ruin your players' fun. Which I think it's like 5 to 6 hard to mediums are what you're supposed to have in an adventuring day, right?
Yeah.
I think that's 5th editions. So you would just make... The way I've done it is waves that get progressively harder each time.
Okay.
I had just gotten like 4 bloops from someone. Discord. I'll look at those later.
Yay, Discord.
What I like doing in wave encounters is I like pairing them with what would be a quote-unquote boss encounter. where you have these weaker little idiots coming in to help their big boss, because it takes up player action so your boss doesn't die as fast.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it's like in... I was going to say it, in Final Fantasy 14. All bosses have ads to take your DPS away so the boss can actually do things. You gotta give bosses ads in 5th edition. The little shitty mooks with not a lot of HP, because they will take up an action from a player.
Well, it was like... I'm going to use Carrion Crown here as an actual example. And this is an area you guys didn't get to. Now, in the final adventure, you get into basically a base of operations of the Whispering Way. And one of the groups I was playing through when it decided to... Which the first thing was really smart. They used like one of those like arcane eyes, but the one that could move, so it's like a higher level one, to scout out the place. That was a great idea. I wasn't against them. I'm like, these are these things in the various rooms. Now the thing is that they chose, which was terrible, is like, there are these like 5 rooms that have enemies in them that are very accessible to the main corridor. They decided just to use like some magic and skip through all the area to the boss. And I'm like, they sound an alarm. They fought the boss. And then have 3 waves of reinforcements coming into the room. Because they skipped over everything. And the people in the rest of the building were like, we're needed, you know? They were not going to just sit there and let them... If the alarm was sounded, they're going to come. You don't think they have alarms or something. Now, like, I think the idea is that you're supposed to explore, fight a lot of these. Most of them are gone. They didn't do any of that.
Nice.
It was a terrible idea. Like,
no,
I'm like...
really bad idea.
I'm like, I'm gonna play them the way they're going to play. They're like, the guy is going to call for his force. He doesn't know how much you've devastated or not. You know? He doesn't know what you've done. But I think that was an example of wave-based used. Granted, it was used for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
But is the idea that...
Wave-based is best used when you're assaulting a lair.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. Or when the enemy is assaulting your lair, which could be a city, for example. Yeah.
That could be like a big assault that, like, your players are only a small part of it, but they have to deal with waves of enemies.
Yeah.
You know, we have to take care of these groups in order to protect an area, you know, for the big assault that's happening. And it tends to be, I would call it, like, it is a large encounter.
Yeah, but that would be a large encounter.
It is a spread out large encounter. And I certainly think you have to be very careful about it, because again, like, I think in like Pathfinder, it's built that you're just going from encounter to encounter to encounter. Yeah. 5th edition kind of wants you to have short rests here and there.
Yes, 5th edition requires you to have a short rest after X amount of encounters. In the DMG, I will bring it up, because again, the DMG does have good stuff in it. I think it's just a little bit out of date at this point.
Yeah.
It does tell you specifically how to run wave-based encounters.
Well, cool.
In a way that works with 5th edition.
That's good. See, that's a good thing. Because then you know how to balance everything out.
Yeah. Yeah, the DMG, it's so great in how it actually doesn't teach you how to... In most cases, it doesn't actually teach you how to run a game.
No.
Which...
Yeah, I mean, like, the DMG has good stuff in it, but it just doesn't have what you think an actual DMG or a game would have.
Like, because I could look at, like, I think Pathfinder 2E's rulebook actually gives you, like, advice on how to run a game.
I mean, freaking Pathfinder 1E's, or 2E's main book gives you advice how to run a game, too. They're just like, if you want to go more in depth, check out their DMG. Oh, that's what 5th edition is like. Buy a module. Run that.
Yeah, buy this module. Especially if you want these items or monsters. Because, you know, we're not going to put those or reprint them in anything else ever again.
Nope. Ugh. Again, that's another reason I do like Pathfinders better, because eventually they we just reprinted it in like a combined book, and I'm like, thank you. You know, they just do that. Or hey, they have both Archives of Nephis and the PSFR DD20, which just archive all this shit, so you can go just check it out anyway. You know, if you don't have to buy the books, they're like, we're earning enough money. We don't have to earn all the money. Sure, have a format that like helps people. I mean, the fact is, you do have to think carefully about the types of encounters that you run, because like these are all the combat encounters, but there's a lot of other types of encounters. There's hazards, traps.
Oh yeah. If you're going to do traps, this is something I will advise.
Yeah.
You kind of have to think of a trap as an enemy, in that a trap also has CR.
Yes.
If you're going to use a trap in an encounter, you have to factor that trap CR into the encounter. I've been in a game where that wasn't done, and the encounter was not fun.
Yeah.
This is deeper discussion.
Yeah. By much. Wizards doesn't understand the internet. Yes, it is, Lightning. Yes, it is. And you're right. Wizards does not understand the internet.
No. If they did, they'd release PDFs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Wizards. Maybe one day. I mean, I'm sorry. The side note, Wizards, this goes to that deeper discussion of Wizards why. They certainly don't understand the internet, because they fucking... Magic Arena, they squandered it. They wanted it to be Hearthstone. Okay, fine, you know, whatever. But they just don't put any decent UI, and just they wreck everything.
The UI got worse.
UI got worse.
There was like an update, and UI got like worse.
I do like how like I've heard recently like a lot of people that have been doing content and stuff have actually been turning back to Magic Online for their multiplayer, because they can do multiplayer and stuff, you know, and all these things.
Maybe we'll actually get a good Magic video game again.
No, never. I think they're gonna.
No, they're not.
They're gonna stick with Arena as much, and it's gonna be their esports thing, and it's not gonna be good.
It makes money, so that's why they like it.
I mean,
it does pull in a lot of
money.
It
does pull in a lot of money, but it's not pulling in. It's not pulling in the money that they could be making. Is kind of what I have to say. Like, honestly,
no.
They could make it a lot better and pull in a lot more money, but they don't see it because it's a good chunk of money. But back to encounters. We've kind of gone over the smaller encounters. Like, think of like a sub-boss encounter as like, yes, you have a unique monster, but it's almost like a large encounter with just an enemy that's slightly more difficult.
An enemy and maybe has a mook or two.
Yeah.
Like a really weak mook or two, like a CR 1/2, CR 1/4.
You're not putting it as something particularly like super big, you know. You're thinking of it kind of in a basic way almost. And I'm sure there are other types of like mini encounters or special types of encounters that I'm forgetting right now. But they all kind of fall under that basic idea.
There's like, this is an encounter I've used a few times. And I don't know if there's like a name for it, but like if X thing is gonna crash, here's some time and checks to do. Timed encounters, that's probably
timed encounters, yeah. Timed encounters I feel like they're
hard.
There are basics for like, you know, like the wave encounter is like in its way a type of time encounter. It's just an advanced type of one, a larger one. Like the basic time might be a small encounter.
It could be a small encounter. It could also be a non-combat encounter.
Yeah. It could be that like you have a certain amount of time before the like your PCs are captured for some reason, and in order to escape, you've got to like get through this like a lock or something, and you have a certain amount of time, or like, you know, to like figure out a way out before the guard comes back and hangs around or something, you know, or breaking into something. Again, you could be that certain amount of time before like a patrol comes through. There are a lot of reasons to have like a timed sort of thing where they've got to be creative, and you're looking at rounds and stuff like that. There are lots of different ways that combat breaks down, and I think you just have to figure out balancing out all of these to make it that they exist but they don't overwhelm your characters.
Yes, one of the issues with 5th edition, I will say, to somewhat of a larger degree, Pathfinder,
Mm-hmm.
for an encounter to kind of like whittle down and become not fun, sometimes all it takes is a single hit.
Yeah.
Especially in Pathfinder, if, like because there are some weapons that have like times 4 crit damage.
Yes, you can get devastated by a critical, and it
Like
just
if a guy has a gun or a pistol, if that thing crits, that's a lot of damage.
even if it's just like
A spear,
a cultist with a scythe. That's a times 4 weapon.
mm-hmm.
You know,
or a spear, because that's a ×3, I think.
arrows times 3.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's not going to be probably a huge amount of damage because they're probably not going to add a lot of strength or bonuses, but still.
Yeah, all it takes is one hit.
Yeah. And I think that's the disadvantage sometimes that Pathfinder has to 5e is that tankiness level, because, I mean, PCs have a little tankiness to them, too.
Yes.
Everything is tanky in 5th edition.
Everything is tanky. I mean, your fighter in the one game had like 80 HP by the end of it. That's a lot of HP.
I leveled myself up at the end there because I might be used in Lightning's game, and I had 99 HP.
Yeah, that's a lot of HP.
Mm-hmm. Granted, I had like an 18 con and 18 strength, you know.
A lot of con.
I was made to be a tank.
Yeah.
But the thing is, yeah, that character was distraction tank. I did a little bit of damage here and there, but my main thing was like, hey, pay attention to me. Keep fighting me. You know? And it was a good role, but the thing is, sometimes those are hard to deal with. I've got to be honest. I knew I was hard to deal with. You know, I cannot deny that. I didn't think I was the worst character to deal with.
The worst to deal with is anyone who has counterspell, because then you just can't do anything fun.
I mean, yeah, there's certainly worse builds. Like, honestly speaking, as much as I like them, I know they can be very dickish. Like in Pathfinder 1e, an archer build.
Yeah.
Like if you go straight fighter archer,
Fighter archer is like one of the standard best builds.
Yeah, because I mean, you just launch nuke arrows.
The build I did with my hunter in Carrion Crown, if that got to level 15, that would have been a very, very difficult to deal with build, because it would have been, I shoot a lot of arrows per turn.
Yeah. God, I think we were 12 or 13 in Rise of the Rune Lords when that game finally broke down, just because we couldn't have time to play it. And I was shooting like 7 arrows in a round or something stupid like that.
About what I would have had with that hunter.
And each was doing like 1d8 plus like 17 at the end. And I was straight fighter archer. So like, you know, it's just like a lot of feats and the fighter abilities, because they add extra damage and hit, you know, slowly over time.
Yep.
So it's like I'm like always deadly aiming. I still had a huge plus with deadly aim, you know, because I had all these bonuses. Because it's like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it gets there that you're like, you know, oh hey, there's a wizard there. He can cast like his huge explosion spells, and I'm just like, I riddle him with 7 arrows.
I delete him.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's like I just delete him with arrows.
Yeah, like, because archers, there's a feat in Pathfinder, I forget what it's called, where you can just forgo your move action and get like a +4 to your hit.
There's also the snapshot.
And I think there's like a better version of it as well.
I think there is. I took the snapshot feats, which is because the fighter archer gets safe shot by like 10th level, because then you can take snapshot, which is you threaten with a bow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I had improved snapshot, which is I threatened in a 30-foot radius.
I think snapshot is technically the way you can get something akin to flanking with a bow.
Yes, because you technically threaten. Yeah, because you threaten in an area. Like, that's with it, yeah. In a 5-foot... Normal snapshots, like in a 5-foot radius, you threaten things. So if they move within it, you can attack of opportunity with a bow. And I'm like, yeah, you threaten. That's what flanking is if someone threatens it. You know? So you technically can flank bow. You're just like... You have it in the small of their back, and you're like, just move, bitch.
Yeah. Or like, fucking... If you get on the Overwatch tree... Any encounter with a lot of mooks, you can just be like, okay, I have this many reactions to prepare. Like, I can hold this many shots, and you can designate a trigger for each shot. So you can just get rid of an entire encounter, kind of.
I think... I don't know if I would have gotten to it. Because I had a safe shot, I had evasive. Volley, which is a foreign action. You make a single bow attack at highest debate attack. Any creature has a 15-foot burst. Just like... mow down everybody.
Machine gun bow.
Yeah, I mean...
Archers are disgusting. They're less disgusting in 50.
Yeah.
However, a rogue archer is pretty gross.
Yeah. No, I honestly really liked playing an archer, but the thing is, I knew I was gross. That's the thing is, that's why I played it very straightforward, and I took a lot of feats that, like, yes, they still added up, but they weren't like, I wasn't going for gross combos. It was sort of like, I'm taking the weapon specialization, weapon focuses. They add up bonuses. Kind of
like the natural course which a DM can look at and be like, I can maybe adapt to that.
The thing is, it's unfortunate that our friend who's the one that's running our 2E game is not great at adventure adaptation, because she's run, like, this is her second game she's run with the Pathfinder 2E game. No, third, technically. She did do a module back in 3rd edition where that's where Blaze can tell you that's where we came up with chorks. Because it was, because she was describing a room filled with bones, and there's like orc bones, human bones, animal bones, and so Blaze goes, are they chork bones? She's like, no chork bones. And the funniest thing happened is, 2 rooms later, she just stops, and you see the hamster wheel in her brain just stop, and she goes, what the hell's a chork? And it was 2 rooms later. It's just like, all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second, what?
Oh, what the fuck is that?
So we were like, because the thing, that's what made it wonderful, is it was so farther down the line that so all of a sudden, it just screeched to a halt in her brain, you know? Yes, no, I think moments like that are good, but...
Yeah, that's a good moment.
I liked Rise of the Rune Lords when she was running it, but again, like, I knew I was a problem, so I tried not to be a problem while still, like, staying fighters.
I've definitely played a combo that's a problem before. So at some point, I know I have.
Well, it's sort of like...
I know, my fucking Polar Master Sentinel Monk was a massive problem for a DM. Because monks are already kind of disgusting at high level. And those 2 feats are disgusting.
What was it? There was a character, because we were starting at, I think, like, 3rd or 4th level. And there was a character in a game that once played, broke the game. We didn't play the game. And it was Blaze was running it, I will tell you. And this was perfectly legal for 3.5 D&D. There was a +1 level adjustment race, half ogre. You were medium sized, but you had powerful build, meaning you could use a weapon size category larger. There was a trick in 3.5 they fixed that there was like a feat, I can't remember which one it was, that you could use a weapon a size category larger than that. Okay, so 2 size categories larger. This person had it. They were a broken monkey grip. Yes.
Yeah.
Then they were the, like, from the Book of 9 Swords, like the War Master, which the Book of 9 Swords was the book that we joked you had the ability to just turn into a cockroach and do 100 damage. Because they literally had an ability at, like, that you would get at high levels that's just, like, add 100 damage to your hit.
Good lord.
Yeah. It wasn't dice. It was just straight up number. It was like these, like, all, like, they were supposed to be like fighter martial arts kind of things. They were weird. Anyway, playing one of those. So they had, like, stances and maneuvers that they could use maneuvers per combat, and they could go into these stances. So the person had a stance which allowed them to basically not move and could increase their damage by a d6. So they started with a spiked chain, which has a 15-foot reach at medium size. We calculated out its huge spiked chain had a 30-foot radius.
I hate that.
Did 3d6 naturally. Did 4d6 when he went into a stance. And then he had a maneuver that he could put up to 5d6.
I hate that.
And we were like 3rd level. He could fireball our enemies.
That's disgusting.
Nothing could get into him, and the only thing that could fight him were archers, and archers screwed the rest of us. Because none of us were gross like this dude.
Good lord. That's awful.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
It was a broken build. The thing is, none of us thought about that combination of things until then, because we also looked at, like, what was it? The Book of Nine Blades, or whatever it was, and we were like, that's stupid. But our friend who played it bought it. So he's going to play it.
Oh, it's real awful.
And I think that's the unfortunate thing is, like, this getting back to our original discussion with combats, you sometimes have to balance combats to your players, and that's not easy. It's not easy. Like, a pre-made adventure is standard. Like, they are just like, this is a very standard adventure with standard difficulties. There's nothing special about it. But the problem with that is you don't know if your team is going to be set for standard above or below that. And you have to kind of learn that and maybe adapt things for them. Because you don't know. You don't know when you're going to get, like, Spike Chain Monster, or you're just going to get a Badger Man in an armor that just can't die.
Look. Alright, there are things I could do to deal with him.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I didn't care. It would have fucked over everyone else too much.
That's the problem.
Like, I could have just switched to save enemies and absolutely doomed you, but that would have screwed everyone else over.
Mm-hmm. Rooms are half of what they encounter, such as what happened on Friday. Oh! You have to talk to me about how
yes.
Friday.
So, the shape of a room matters in your encounters.
I can see that.
Furniture, the plate... Yes. So, the size and shape of your rooms, what cover things can hide behind, that drastically affects an encounter. What CR is specifically for the monster.
Mm-hmm.
An encounter will use a CR6 enemy, sure. Just CR6 enemy. Imagine it. I don't know any CR6 enemies off the back of my hand right now. If they are I
can't remember myself.
I'd say they're a ranged enemy.
Mm-hmm.
If you put them in a small room, their CR is going to drastically lower because they lose their advantage of range.
Mm-hmm.
Same with melee enemies. If they are farther away from you, they will lose their CR. The size and shape of a room matters because there are things that an enemy could hide behind or there would be no cover at all. They're either far away from you or they're up or close, and that can raise or lower CR depending on what it is.
Yeah.
Your environment still matters in 5th edition, just in a little bit of a different way. And a lot of people kind of forget that.
You do have to also consider, like, that's part of the environment, but also, like, there could be hazards to that environment. Consider, like, a room that's exceptionally hot or something, and it's got, like, what the fuck are you, fire dwarfs, Azef or something, or Azer? I can't remember.
Something like that.
But consider them, like, a bunch of creatures that are, like, immune to fire damage in a room that has a lot of heat, that maybe, like, it's got a lava flow through it, in this one room. Azer, thank you. You're going to be taking, like, we're, like, taking fire damage each round we're in here, but maybe we have to pass through here, So, the enemy's not taking that damage. You're taking damage over time as long as you're, like, getting down into this room, and you've got to deal with that. And, that's changing the dynamic of it. And that's more extreme. But, like, certainly, like, areas where if your characters are mostly melee, and even if the enemies are mostly melee, they might not be really good at ranged, but you could just have, like, a big cliff in the middle.
Yeah.
They're set up with, like, spears that they can throw at, like, a
environment.
Yeah.
This is something we did also kind of do in the game that moved to Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Size of a hallway. Because if you're fighting, for example, we were fighting undead. Undead are not smart. They are really stupid, typically.
Mm-hmm.
Their typical drive is they see living thing and they want to kill it. A large size undead is going to try to get you no matter what size hallway you're in, meaning it's going to be squeezing which gives it massive disadvantages, lowering its CR.
Yep.
And there's also, you can also funnel enemies through a small hallway so they can't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a small hallway, there's no surrounding, they're in a line.
There are a lot of factors to encounters.
These are things you do have to think about as a DM.
And you got to consider all of them, beyond just type.
It is very hard.
Yeah. Like,
I often see things happen in encounters like, oh, I didn't fucking think of that.
Yeah. A giant boss arena of whatever type it is, you have to consider what that arena takes the shape of, because that makes a huge difference for difficulty. Like, honestly, something that I didn't consider as much would be, like, a good example would be against the Brine Brood Queen in Buccaneers. That battle was difficult to figure out, and I didn't even think about, like, because I did give you that, like, land area that, like, again, this is something that I made a mistake of. You guys don't really have range.
No. Our range was a 20-foot gun.
Yeah, that's not great. You don't have range. So it's sort of like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. And this was a battle that screamed, you need some range. You know? And that was an issue. It's like, we figured it out. We got through it. It's fine. But there's things like that you have to take things into account that... that small bit of land, you needed it.
Yeah.
You needed it. You couldn't have fought it without that, which... The thing is, I'm sorry, you can't do that area when it's, like, high tide.
I don't know how they expect you to even attempt it.
I'm like, why are they even giving me this information sometimes?
Like, what is the point of having that information? Because your players are, never going to go in there when it's high tide.
No.
Unless they're that stupid, which most people aren't.
I mean, they could have tried to, honestly, and gone through part of it, and then, like, retreated it. I don't know. They thought it was a neat idea and put it in there, but it's, like, one of those things that, like, when you really sit down and think about it, you're like, who's dumb enough to do that?
You don't really need this information.
Oh. We could have just had you gone in anyway and been like, it's this flooded, you know? I mean, like, yeah, okay, it's a tidal cavern, so it makes sense, but still... I don't know.
Yep.
There's a lot to always consider for combat encounters beyond just the types that we've been talking about now.
And you also have to remember, as a DM, sure, it's your job to run and know, to make sure things run smoothly. You're going to miss something as a DM. Everyone does. Even the best and most experienced DMs in the world, they miss shit.
You're only human.
The human brain is not capable of focusing on this many things at once.
Yeah. There are so many details to a big encounter. The bigger the encounters, even small encounters, you can miss something. Yeah. You could put in, like, all these little details, and then someone could come up with some kind of use of one of those details that you did not think of.
Like, I have had I've had people use environments in very inventive ways that I have never really thought of. And one of my favorite ones, it was so simple, but I don't know why I never thought of it. They flipped over a table to have cover.
Yeah.
I never thought of that, but they did it, and it gave them a lot of helpful cover.
I will always remember, I mean, an undead pirate ship will be a big encounter, but that's, you know, it is not technically the biggest encounter you can have in this section of the adventure.
We fought an undead pirate ship in the game.
Ah, well, you can be doing that anyway.
We can do it again.
You can do it again. What I was going to say is, I will always remember a really great use of the environment, which is something that I don't think was... It's sort of built in there, but not really built in there, is there was, like... It was a 4E adventure, and 4E is all about positioning, and there's this one area that they're like... It was a big, like, hearth fire, and they're like, yeah, like, if anybody does decide to go in there, they take this amount of damage per turn. We surrounded and shoved a goblin into that.
Yeah.
And just watched him burn.
A fight in the game I was in where we had someone with the, I think it's a charger feat that lets you charge and shove someone, right?
Yeah.
5e. That character, we were fighting a bunch of undead near, like, a cliff. That character just kept pushing skeletons off of the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
It was hilarious, but I can imagine how frustrating that was for DM.
Of course.
But environments matter.
Yeah, and you can set up cool environments and cinematic environments, and they could screw you.
Yes. Oh yeah.
On both directions, they could screw you. That they're like this environment is either like super murdering your players and you didn't expect it to, or your players are taking advantage of it in a crazy way and murdering your stuff.
I will never forget the time that I dropped a bunch of stalactites or whatever the ones that are on the ceiling onto a boss, because they were describing the environment. And I was a wizard or I was a spellcaster. I'm like, I'm just going to target those and drop them on the boss, because environmental objects have HP and hardness.
Yep.
There's rules for it. So I was just dropping rocks onto this boss.
And the thing is, each one of them, there are rules for falling objects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for every, like, just the same way as most things. It's like, if I fall 50 feet onto something, I will take 5d6 points of damage.
Yes.
What I hit takes 5d6 points of damage.
Yes. When you fell on that man after jumping off that tower, there was nothing left. I'm sorry, he would have been at so much negative HP that even in Pathfinder you'd be fucking dead.
Yeah, I forget how much. It was 10.
It was like a 60-foot tower.
Yeah,
and just jumped
just
off
like doing
it.
60-10, and I'm like, or 66, and I'm just like, hooah! And the thing is, my character's weight in full plate would have done dice damage to the object too that I don't take. That I'm just doing extra damage to what I land on. Yeah. And also there was I was surrounded by dragon breath weapon I was immune to, so as I was doing a super power dive with sword out or something. It was cool.
Very cinematic moment. I'm glad that's what ended the game.
Sometimes you need those. I just like the idea that maybe I used the divine power and absorbed it into my sword, so it was the cold beat, it was swirling with cold energy as I stabbed down into it, or something. That's the movie version, it's just
when they make the movie adaptation in that world of that legend, because that character is a canon character.
You're welcome. Lightning. I did that. I mean, that's a thing. But
also, you should reward your players for finding creative ways to break your environment and use it to their favor.
Don't punish them. That's definitely a thing. It's you can do stuff to make things harder down the line, and think about that. And again, if they're beating up a boss that they're not supposed to beat up, give the boss some plot armor or something, a way of escape that he just had.
Enemies should. I'm a big fan of giving enemies a means of escape, especially if they're a boss, whether it be some form of teleport or an item.
Yeah. Again, just give them an item that could teleport out, or a potion of invisibility or something, and they don't really have a way of detecting invisibility very easily. You just think of something like that, and you could be again, and this is especially if the encounter was not, if they were just trouncing it and it wasn't a difficult encounter you wanted it to be, have the boss come back at a later time. I for one, it's sort of I have the possibility of bringing back a Brian Blue Queen because you killed her son first, but the thing is, the module says if her son dies, she runs away, first.
Will she ever come back?
I have an option of it. I also have the guy who may or may not be dead that could come back as a super undead mutant or something, and basically Davy Jones.
Squid face.
Yeah, basically Davy Jones could come back, but he's Mr. Was it Scourge or Plug? Which is I can't remember which.
Plug. Scourge got executed.
Yeah, so Plug it can come back as your Davy Jones now.
Yeah, Plug got baseball batted off the ship.
Yeah, which was hilarious. It was. But that battle wasn't going to be too difficult anyway, and I knew it at that point in time. You'd set up things well for mutinying.
Sometimes we're smart.
Yeah. shall we talk about our games of the week?
Sure, we can talk about our games.
Oh, let's see here. I didn't have anything Saturday or Sunday. Do you have anything on Sunday?
That'll be starting up tomorrow, I guess.
Okay. Then Mondays I had off this week because our DM has gotten a new job and is still doing stuff to get set up for that. It's just it's just gonna probably be a few months of adapting. Fair.
I don't think we had a game on Tuesday. I think we moved it to Friday.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't think we did a session on Tuesday. I don't think everyone was available for one.
Ah. What time do you do it on a Friday now that you're on a Friday?
Friday we do it at like 3 or 4.
That's not bad.
Much easier for me, so I don't have to go to bed immediately after.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing it pretty late. Like, I feel bad about Wrath going late, sometimes.
Well, Wrath going late, it's fine now, because I don't have to do anything on Fridays besides this 4 p.m. D&D game.
Yeah. We didn't have Buccaneers because we were off. We were going to be off this week as a part of the plan.
Captain's getting married.
Yep. So he'll be back next week, and we'll have you encountering undead pirates, theoretically. Actually, I've got some...
probably.
I got some interesting ideas for how that'll be nice and a little bit more cinematic than what they put in the book.
I imagine the book is probably some long, drawn-out, annoying combat.
A little bit. They go very, like you have to have a ship battle first.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I
get why, but that slows things down, especially for a stream. One, we don't know the ship combat rules that well.
Like, if it gets into a thing that you need a ship combat, which there are a few that I will throw out there, but you will need a ship combat, it is mostly about the ship combat.
Yeah.
I'm
sure we'll be fine.
You had session 1 of Underdank?
Yeah, I have started a new game on Thursdays, and for memes, Lightning and I call the Underdark the Underdank. It's very dank down there.
It's the dankest of dungeons?
Kind of. Full of demons.
Ah.
Yeah, we had session 1 of that. There's a very colorful group of people. Lightning is once again playing a nerd. Although this nerd is a combat nerd.
Ooh, combat nerd.
We've got a tiefling who takes drugs and gets stronger for it. That's a class in a book I have, and I allowed it because it's hilarious. It's an alchemist who just drinks a bunch of potions to get stronger. We have a dwarf who's a little bit slow, but he's a lovely boy, and he likes pie. And then Cell's character might be my favorite because his name is an anagram of Drizzt's name. And he is the least edgy dark elf to ever fucking exist.
The least edgy?
Yeah. It's so good.
Okay.
But they started on a train. Because the Underdark has trains. And specifically a lightning ring. He also is a drow ranger, like Drizzt.
So basically, Drizzt.
Yeah, basically, but less edgy. They started with a train. Trains are cool, in my opinion, and they don't get used a lot in D&D, though there are official rules for them.
I guess
they do go very fast.
I guess you would have it from Eberron.
Yeah, they're the lightning rails from Eberron.
Still, like I there are definitely things like I've always been a little weirded out by Eberron, but there's definitely things that are in there that I think are very interesting.
The airships and the lightning rails I think are really cool because Eberron airships are fucking massive, and they're powered by like the elemental planes.
That's pretty cool.
And then lightning rails I think are also. Eberron is like basically everything's powered by elemental magic, which I think is pretty neat. But they were on train, and then the train was attacked by some dudes in masks who were not that strong, but oh god, the party couldn't hit them, and I kept max rolling my damage.
Ah!
They had 20 HP apiece. Oh. Good god, it was a lot rougher than it should have been, because they were kind of shit. But they eventually all died, because I thought ahead and was like, I should maybe give them NPCs that can help, in case something goes wrong, and it went horribly wrong. Because that's how dice work. It was also a bit deadlier, because I am doing a bit of a foray into a deadlier game, as is the Underdark, and it's not the most pleasant of places. But it definitely, a lot of the deadliest came down from you guys couldn't hit anything, and I rolled a lot of max damage.
Yay, max damage!
I love it. And then they killed all those idiots, and they moved to the next train cart where there was another encounter. There was only 3 people. They are stat blocks from a bestiary I backed on Kickstarter.
Ooh, cool.
For a Grimdark game.
Okay.
And they're really cool stat blocks because the one I used from it was basically someone who didn't have any melee attacks at all, but they had an ability where if you failed your con check, you took fire damage because they began to boil your blood.
Ooh.
And I thought that was a very unique enemy, so then I used that. That encounter went a lot smoother because the party could actually hit things. Then I was gonna originally have you fight the woman in the train cart, but I forgot to stat her out.
Do you know my dad and
So she fucked off and left.
I go back home and then
I forgot to give her stats. I thought I did, and I looked at her sheet and I was like, oh, she has no stats.
Don't know that.
So I have to stat her still,
Sorry.
apparently. I thought I did. But she,
I'm streaming right now.
like, she was gonna be a super boss. She was gonna leave anyways before you killed her. She just left earlier.
I want my daddy.
Too bad, I can't help it.
She basically, like, as the party reached her, like, shoved her sword into
What was that?
the train controls. So the train would go and crash, and then she fucking left. She's like, I'm not staying on this stupid, like, crashing train. That's suicide.
Yeah.
I have a city to go burn to the ground. So she teleported off the train, and then they fought a demon that kind of raised up out of the corpse of a dude who was a little more difficult than I anticipated, sadly.
I love those.
Yeah, sometimes that happened, because it's the thing with CR. He was on par with other monsters of that CR. But it's really hard to determine what's too much damage.
There you go with what we were talking about earlier, that the
it's a little hard
5e CR system is busted.
It's something I'll be considering more in the future. And being a lot more careful about. But I had contingency plans to keep you idiots alive. We killed him. He was a big demon monster. I thought he had, like, he was really cool. Well, he's a bit basic, actually. But he left. He died. Math is hard, okay? Math's hard. But he died. And then they stopped the train from crashing, thankfully. And they arrived at a city that is now being sieged by demons. So it's basically like, I basically just like immediately shoved them into chaos. Not a slow opener, you just shove into demon invasion.
Here, enjoy demon invasion.
Yeah, have some demons. Demons are like pretty bad. Yeah, basically, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I got to use a train, which was really cool.
I had nothing quite as adventurous. In Children of Wrath, I got to reintroduce a character from the previous season and give them information that had them change their plans completely, which honestly I didn't know they were going to do that. I was going to give them the information, because basically my idea was to basically like, yeah, it's not a full, it's like also kind of a zombie at the same time, you know. And that was the idea of giving them that information, is that you have to be careful about what you do. It's not just a construct. It also has like bones in there that are being animated by the dark energy that's being implied into it to create, basically it's like a cyborg zombie almost. And they're like, we're gonna wake up the spirit of the thing inside, and I'm like, that's a thing you could probably do. Okay.
I feel like, you know, I'm not involved in much of the main decision making because I have 8 intelligence and I don't understand most things. That's a decision someone made. I think Cass made that decision.
Yes. And I will tell you, it is probably a better decision than some of the ones they've been trying to make.
Oh god, some of the plans we've had are really stupid.
Direct fighting that in any way was really dumb.
Yeah, that was never gonna end well.
I mean, specifically trying to infiltrate it when it's got like a small army of transmorphs in there, that probably a bunch of them had been corrupted by Phyrexian oil
or whatever.
Yeah. Which means that the person that could easily get in there, aka Claude, doesn't want to deal with that because oil would do terrible things to him, because basically they are both constructs of nanomachines.
Nanomachines, son.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Metal Gear Solid.
Fucking Magic introduced nanomachines a while ago. That's what fucking
that's like
Flowstone is. They're like, yeah, Flowstone. By the way, it's nanomachines. It's like, what?
This is a side tangent. I hate that like a lot of shit in things that are unexplainable are just reduced down to it's nanomachines.
Well,
it doesn't help. That literally explains nothing, because that's just a small machine, sir.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I like the idea that they at least half explain it, because they're like, oh yeah, the Phyrexians, they're based on an ancient super science, you know, culture, and so they develop basically Borg nanomachines to corrupt people. And I'm like, okay, yes, you have like the people that are literally like evil undead Borg created them. That makes sense, you know. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay. And
makes
so
sense.
Why did you build a plane out of them?
It's that meme of like the scientist being like, I made a robot that screams, and another scientist is like, why? And then the scientist is like,
I mean, like, the existence of Wrath as an artificial plane makes sense story-wise. Why is it built out of nanomachines? Because they couldn't find anything better, I guess?
there's no other more efficient material than nanomachines.
And having a giant, like... Well, that's kind of what it is. It's because Wrath is an artificial plane developed from a giant flowstone furnace, which creates these things, and poured it out and spread it to an appropriate size that it would effectively merge with Dominaria, a planet. You know, because that was supposed to be like a gateway invasion way. It was that. They were cheating to get around, because they could get to Wrath, because they created it, but their Phyrexia's connections with Dominaria had been cut off by Urza. So they were using it to get around those connection cutoffs. And that's why they were able to invade. And that is a storyline that's stupid, but makes sense in a stupid, logical way. If that makes sense.
It's stupid, but it works.
I don't know why they built it out of nanomachines. Like, as soon as they're like, Flowstone is technically nanomachines, I'm like, I know why, because it's basically the same thing as Phyrexian oil, which is supposed to be like fucking Borg nanomachines in oil form. Ah, God. Anyway, we're here now. There's apparently super technology and like cybernetics in Magic with fucking neon thing. So I mean, it makes sense. All whatever. Fuck you, Kamigawa.
Sure. Magic the Gathering's gone to some weird places. Let's be honest.
Oh God, they just do.
There's some weird settings. It can't all be Innistrad. It's got to be some weird stuff.
I'm sorry, Innistrad's weird in and of itself too. God. Anyway, so yeah, Borg nanomachines, some other plot and some other things, and like they have a new, probably not stupid plan. Less stupid plan. Less stupid. Will it work?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. Anyway, you had a Friday game. If you haven't talked about
a Friday game.
Yeah.
We're still at magic school, and my character is goddamn bored. Because when someone said, when the tiefling was like, "Oh, there's a magical academy, we could go there and shit," and my character's head was like, "Oh, it's a place where they, like, do magic spells. I can learn things." Or no, it's just a bunch of nerds reading books.
Oh God, that's
It's fun to people who read books. They don't cast spells. They just read books. Yeah, so my character was really bored there. And then we got hired by a teacher to go check out, like, a research lab full of awful undead. Is undead or a thing?
Well, that seems pleasant.
This will harken back to the why room size matters. Lightning made a perfect... The map that I don't know if Lightning made or found was perfectly sized for me to just throw fireballs in and hit, like, everything.
Ah!
So, we were fighting... I don't know what they actually were. They were just named large undead in chat. I cast 2 fireballs. They took, like, 65 damage immediately because of me in 2 turns, or 2 rounds. Well, yeah, I only hit 3 at the start. Then because they're so big, we could just moonbeam all of them to death. Because they're big, chunky lads.
Good old moonbeam.
They're also really stupid, so we're trying to squeeze past each other because they were large creatures. And they all died horribly. And then we explored a bit. The door is only open if we give them blood. That's probably fine.
Blood for the blood god.
Yep. And then we found a big fat undead boy again, and then a littler undead who had a weird amount of HP. And that combat took a long time. Because, again, 5th edition is like, hire CR monster, loads of HP. Just stuff the HP in. We had to fight in a small hallway with it, and we kind of cheesed the fight, like, pretty badly, because what Cell was doing was, I booming blade, I back up, I booming blade, I back up, down this small hallway just repeatedly, and because it's undead, it's like, I'm gonna chase you. So it's just constantly taking damage. Oh, 5th edition.
Yeah.
We cheesed that encounter a bit. It also had spells. The zombie also had spells, or whatever the hell it was.
Could have been like a Juju zombie. They do have those in 5th edition.
He was smarter than the big boy, but the big boy kind of trapped it in the tunnel because the big boy was trying to squeeze to get us, which meant the thing couldn't leave the tunnel, so its only option was to sit there or try and kill us.
Good times.
Well, that's a barking dog.
That is a barking dog. I mean, I had to bother some meats briefly.
But yeah, that was that adventure. We killed a bunch of undead and really didn't take that much damage in return. It was just, as it was trying to squeeze through slowly, we just kept moving the moonbeam on top of it.
Just like slowly nuking it with moon powers.
Just melting it with a moonbeam.
Good times. I guess that's it for our weekend gaming. I don't know if there's anything else. I do have a weird Kickstarter that's going to be on Kickstarter. So it's not out yet, but it has been announced and I found out about it. I think, let me just check here what's about it here. So it's coming to Kickstarter soon. And it is it's Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast for Everyone. Here's their website. So it's a slice of life RPG about, I guess, being at a bed and breakfast.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, it kind of is. And I was like, that's strange but interesting. And I don't know what this would be about, but it's just a weird little RPG, and that's interesting. Yep. So that is what I have on that. It is not a lot of information because it's not out on Kickstarter actually yet. But, you know, just wanted to shout out something that looked interesting. It's a thing to keep an eye on. There probably will be more details with the Kickstarter about how it works and all. So, if, again, having that first look at something that makes you think, oh, that's interesting, is always a good way to get you, like, checking it out. And then you can see if it really is for you beyond the interest. So, I've shouted that one out. And that is it for Kickstarter. And I think that is our... Kickstarter should have been before a week in tabletop, but I forgot to do it.
Yeah, there's no structure to this show.
I try to have at least some-ish. Anyway.
Structure is for the week.
I think that's it for them today.
Embrace chaos.
I embrace chaos all the time. It's my existence is chaos. Because I don't remember most things, so then I'm like, this is like, whatever, chaos. Sure, we'll go with that. So, I hope all of you enjoyed the show. I think that's it for today. Should be back next week. I'm on the schedule for it, and we'll see if who I get for joining us. Oh, you wish to consult the table. What do you consult us with, Lightning? In chat, for those of you on YouTube. What do you consult us with? What questions do you yearn answered from the universe?
I will ponder this orb until you consult me.
See, I can't see the orb, so I'm not disappointed. But I will assume there's like this cool ass
DM burnout. Very much a thing.
It is very much a thing. It's like I'd say it's like comparable to writer's block.
Yes.
You can get into the point in time where it's a stifling in creativity, where you just don't know what to do. I think taking a break is good for DM burnout. Just like, you know, taking a break for writer's block.
Yeah.
Other things is, you know, if you want stuff to inspire you and get yourself through that kind of burn, and you still want to run for various reasons, you can do things like dive into creative stuff. I would say, like, you know, watch movies, read stuff, watch TV shows, really weird, interesting ones.
I experienced really bad DM burnout towards the end of the vampire hunting game you were enlightening, and that's partially why I ended it, because I just didn't want to run the game anymore.
Other things that you can do is sort of like, what I do that helps a lot with that is something like Buccaneers, which is based on a pre-made adventure. That helps a lot. So
yep.
I am still creative, but I can do less creativity for, you know, for I can do less work on it. Or like, I think Wrath is a good example of a game which doesn't allow for a lot of burnout because it's I BS so much of
I feel
Wrath.
like Wrath is a lot of reacting to your idiot party.
Yes. It is 99% reacting to my idiot party. And therefore, I don't really plan a lot, like, anything practically for Wrath, because there's so much just you have to
By
react
the way, speaking of Wrath, finish my staff.
I'll finish your staff. Yes.
2, don't give me a special power. I'm committed to being a normal human man.
Okay, then we'll stick with just you get a cool staff.
To being a normal human man.
You're just a normal dude with a really cool staff.
Normal dude. I've just committed to this.
You just got a cool staff.
I just have a weird staff.
So yeah, burnout is definitely a thing that can occur.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just have to.
It sucks when it occurs.
Oh yeah.
All those capital letters.
I think it's like, again, example of me that I overcame burnout was something like, I was feeling a lot of burnout for both records and Legacies
Vampire.
because they were hard to run. They felt like they were dragging on a lot.
They did go for a long time.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that ending, but it was so hard to get to that ending. I think this Sunday is kind of like a little up in the air because like it ended up just being like it's been a few busy weeks, and I was again helping out with some family stuff, so I wasn't like I put the suggestion in, and I didn't really get words back from people from the first movie, so I guess I got to direct message
My
people.
life's been a little bit chaos.
Yeah.
So
I might plan something off stream for Sunday then. Lightning. If I do. I don't know if I'll do something on stream or not. That's kind of like up in the air. So that's where I'm at right now. But otherwise, yeah, so scheduling. I'm gonna try to actually get some streaming in this week. I keep saying that to myself, but like I've been getting some stuff set up for it, and getting some plans together, and I think what I'm going to try a bit of what to do is to make some plans today and tomorrow for the week. Yeah, I did post about a lot of other game systems. Those are going to be off stream, and I've got some time periods where I want to do them, and I think it's just a matter of organizing those games and kind of putting some of them in there. I'm going to probably do like 2 at least of those right now, those off stream ones.
fair.
And then switch between things as I go. That's kind of where I'm at. So yeah. Yeah, so expect some stuff on stream. Certainly, we'll be back with Buccaneers next Wednesday, 8 p.m. EST. Children of Wrath, Thursday at 9 p.m. EST. No, there was a possibility a week is off from Wrath. Wrath is up in the air.
Yes, it is.
Because 2 of the players might be busy.
Yeah.
Fish and Mads both are
We'll keep you posted.
possibly. So we'll keep people posted. There is a percentage chance that they're not going to be busy, so that's why it hasn't really canceled. But
Yeah.
there's a chance of it. I'll keep
You'll
you posted.
probably know on Wednesday.
Yes. No, I'll have an announcement out. Then I'll remember to do that earlier on Thursday. I guess we'll have that, and I'll plan for something in its place. I'll basically come up with some backup plans or something. Maybe I'll like have you and Joe do a little tabletop sim and grab somebody, because that doesn't take too long or something like that. I don't know.
Probably free that night.
And that's the major things on the schedule. Again, I'm going to try to build a schedule this weekend, and I'm going to tell people now here on Twitch here, I'm going to try to do more posts in social media, and that's not just on my Discord. I'm going to try to like post some shit up onto like, I've got my Twitter, which I just basically barely use. I'm going to try to put a few things up onto it to like let people know shit, just to keep people informed of existence. Because I've been kind of like, I was doing stuff pretty well for social media, and then I just let it all go at some point. I basically use that for stream announcements now, and that's not a good use of it.
No.
Certainly is not. Even if it's just like little like updates or thought patterns for like, once a day or something, that's probably a little bit more than like I've been doing for sure. But we'll leave it at that. I'm working on fixing things up, and I'll like do a lot of stuff in the future. But for now, I'm misaligned on here. I just realized that my camera's a little misaligned. When did that happen?
Who knows?
Anyway, and there's a little better. Thanks for joining, Momo.
Yeah.
I hope everybody has a great rest of your Saturday, great rest of your weekend. If don't join me for anything, so everybody stay safe, sane, healthy, etc., and farewell for now. So, bye everybody.
Bye.